Chapter 13. I could feel my breath pull out of my chest and vanish without replacement. How in the world could Jeremiah Redwood escape? I had a lot of questions, but the only thing that could pop into my mouth was, "What?" I know. Anthony was crazed, as if the local police department would not possibly be so inept. Redwood stabbed the guard with a pen. Apparently he had been given the pen for a crossword. He got a hold of the guard's key card, managed to change into the guard's clothing, and escaped. He put the guard in his clothing. The guy almost died. Redwood's been out for hours. How did no one notice? My initial scandalized self had turned into rage. Redwood shouldn't have crossword privileges. We don't know if it's an inside job yet, Anthony continued, but Redwood knows the police department. He could have easily acted his way out of there alone. I conveyed the news to Santiago and Ryan. "Oh my gosh," Ryan hysterically cried out. "He's coming back to finish what he started." "Where would Redwood go?" I asked. "Probably somewhere someone would never think of," Santiago guessed. "But he might try and work with Claudia and Haley to nail Elroy and us." Knowing Redwood, he was too poisoned for revenge to not come after us. "Where's Mrs. Findie?" I asked. Can we use her systems to look into some ideas?" "She's hanging with Alison and Mariah," Ryan told me. "Hanging? She was a computer system, not a person. We need to assemble." I took charge like an office administrator when ordering coffee for the office. "Santiago, call Mariah and have them meet us in the office in 5. Santiago, Ryan, and I arrived with 3 fresh pizzas from the corner parlor. We always kept diet soda in the office like overzealous doomsday preppers. We had some leftover salad from the fridge. Even if you just had a little salad, it was still getting your greens. Mariah, Alison, and Mrs. Findie were already in the back, and Secretary Kathy looked quite unbothered while she read her sexy novel. Just because Redwood was at large didn't mean we would stop eating or reading erotica. "So what do we do?" Mariah asked, grabbing a hot slice. "I think that we should just wait." "No!" Alison screamed, and everyone momentarily paused over the pizza boxes. "You want us to wait until we get killed or something? That's just stupid." Alison has a point. I had fingered up my own slice of barbecue chicken pizza. "We need to figure out what's going on. I don't want to wait around until Redwood shows up brandishing a gun, or even worse, Claudia and Haley with their horror tools." We continued theorizing locations as we pounded down the pizza like buzzards on a corpse. While we ate, 2 women approached the office annex door. Both had pale skin, freckles, and red hair, which made them look like 2 twins straight out of Ireland. "Can we help you?" I asked, confused as to why clients were walking nilly-willy into the back of the office. It wouldn't have been hard enough for them to slip past Kathy. "Hello, I'm Maggie O'Neilly. This is my sister Maggie," the one twin said. "'Tis great," Maggie noted, sounding more like ancient British than modern Irish. Don't ask me how I could distinguish. Probably too many late nights watching British procedurals. "What do you 2 ladies need?" Mariah eyed me softly. She was a bit thrown off, too. "We were having some shepherd's pie down by the loch while our father burned down our Irish car." Maggie's eyes welled with presumably Irish tears. "It's such an Irish tragedy, so we drank some Irish breakfast tea and watched some Irish dancing." It seemed these 2 were very Irish. "Then we brought tickets to Ireland," Maggie jumped in. "We think our time across the pond is over." Uber Irish. "Well, you would need to report that to police. I don't see how we could help you," Santiago told them. "Oh, that's an Irish shame." Maggie sounded terse. I didn't really believe Maggie and Maggie O'Neilly's story. Nobody was that Irish. I mean, Maggie was wearing a shirt that said, "Kiss me, I'm Irish," and Maggie had a bunch of shamrock beads around her neck. I really doubted Irish people leaned into their identity that hard. "But you know what the real shame?" Maggie said, and she pulled out an Irish submarine gun from her Irish purse. Now that felt genuinely Irish. "It's a shame you fell for our trap," Maggie agreed, pulling out her own submarine gun coming from her green handbag. "I take it you both aren't Irish twins?" I gulped, trying to remain calm in the case of very familiar weapons. "Damn right, sugar," Maggie snarled. "You should know who the hell we are." Maggie snapped. "I do." I grimaced, not wanting to give them the satisfaction that they had momentarily fooled us with their embellished characters. "It is I, Claudia Perez," Maggie, nay, Claudia exclaimed. "And I, Haley Compton." Maggie turned Haley cheered with a jazz hand. Both Maggie and Meggie took off their ginger wigs and wiped the pale makeup and fake freckles off their faces with a flourish of their gun-free hand. "Now, if it was up to me, I'd kill you all now," Claudia laughed. "You can't kill me. You'd break me," Miss Findie told her. "Oh, it's you again, you bucket of bolts," Claudia remarked. Haley intervened. "We've got to get them to Redwood." Since we were in the back of the office, they led us to the nearby back door. I tried signaling for Kathy, who was in sight, but Kathy appeared engrossed in her erotic novel and failed to notice that multiple staff members were being kidnapped by gunpoint. We were loaded into Claudia and Haley's car like cattle. Once we were situated, Claudia got behind the wheel while Haley kept her gun on us. "You know what music we should play?" Claudia said, pulling out her phone, which was Bluetoothed to the speakers. "Something treacherous?" Haley giggled. Claudia immediately cranked it over to Camila Cabello. "No!" I gasped. "Not this! Anything else but this!" "Ah!" Alison yelled. "I can't handle it!" Claudia and Haley were singing along to the music, which was like having to hear two hawks scratch panes of glass with their talons on constant repeat. "My ears are killing me," Miss Findie ached. "You don't have ears," I exasperatedly cried out, looking down at the compact computer in Mariah's lap. "I can still hear." Also, this has been a major problem for me. I was on my soapbox and unable to come off of it. "Why are you Mrs. Findie? Are you married?" "I think the idea is that I'm married to my work," Mrs. Findie answered. "That, or the policemen who designed me don't understand the grammatical and societal difference." The latter seemed to hold up in my court. While we were tortured with Camila Cabello's B-sides, Claudia and Haley drove to the Red House on Murray Hill. It had been known as their base of operation, and yet we hadn't seen anything or anyone in the house. But now I was realizing I desperately didn't want to enter the Murray Hill house. Clearly, Jeremiah Redwood and an assortment of torture tools were waiting for us. Claudia and Haley pulled us out of the van with the animosity of prison guards who had spent a decade beating up their wards. They placed our hands in cuffs first. "Watch it," Mariah yapped. "It's tight." "At least something on your body is tight," Claudia barked. We walked into the Murray Hill house, which was an old-fashioned build with even older furniture. The house looked like it was decorated by an interior designer from the 1870s. "Into the living room," Claudia commanded, her throat raspy with anger and oozing horniness. I don't understand what exactly was hot about the situation, but to each their own kink. Jeremiah Redwood was seated on a dusty, uncomfortable couch and stood up to greet us. He looked past the verge of insanity, just reeked of pure mental discomposure. He wore a simple outfit he probably lifted from the house. "Please, sit down." Redwood pointed to the other furniture in the room. "I'll take that chair," Alison commandeered, still acting for her own best interest in the face of death and danger. Mariah, Santiago, Ryan, Mrs. Findie, and I sat on the other couch, which had the dexterity of quicksand. Sitting on that couch was perhaps the worst thing that had happened so far, and I can confidently say that since we were currently up against death. I'll be honest, I didn't want to die, but I wasn't scared either. When you died, you didn't have to worry about mortgage payments, social plans you didn't want to go to, or first dates with slews of terrible humans. Besides, I think I'd be a peaceful ghost. A few minutes of awkwardness passed as Redwood sized us up, staring us down like a shark, wondering how delicious we might be. "You've all caused me a great deal," Redwood chastised, like he was talking to his kids who put soap in the dishwasher. "I never would have guessed that you would put me in such a bind. All of this was just simple revenge and to grab money at first, but you've made me do quite the turnaround, including escaping detainment. Can you understand how difficult you've made this? Does that get into your thick skulls?" "My skull isn't thick, it's voluptuous," Alison cut in, to no effect. Redwood grabbed a small needle off a nearby table. "I don't think you understand. At least not yet. And once you do understand, you won't have long to understand it." I gulped and realized I didn't see Claudia or Haley. They must have gone upstairs or to the kitchen. Weird. You'd think they'd want to watch this. "There's one thing I haven't told you," Redwood smiled. "I've made a ton of connections here in Cleveland. You'd be surprised by the people I run into. I actually made some connections with a gang that is operating out of Bolivia." My blood ran cold at that moment. I instantly made the connection, but this was the second time in the last week that Bolivia had been mentioned. "What did you do with her?" I barked. As soon as I said that, Santiago and Mariah clicked into realization. Me? Nothing. Redwood smiled. However, my friends in Bolivia have kidnapped, what's her name? Denise? Dea? I was close. Dana, was it? What are you going to do to her? Mariah demanded to know. Oh, nothing. Redwood was amused with this whole affair. Besides, I don't think I'll be able to. The little mafia in Bolivia will do what they must. I'm just a messenger. I looked around the room again for Claudia and Haley. Had they left the building? I eyed my cuffs. You're a pig, Mariah snarled. This is all ridiculous. It's not ridiculous at all. Redwood's enjoyment had faded a bit and was replaced with his unique sense of aggressive justice. Ryan here can explain it, can't you? Redwood moved forward with the needle and raised it to Ryan's throat. He slowly slid the instrument across Ryan's skin. Pearl beads of blood ballooned up as Ryan let out a pitiful soft scream. We had a good thing. You, me, Elroy, Quinns. Redwood sighed. And then you were going to cut me out. It took a while for Ryan to collect himself. Redwood waited patiently, perhaps seeking an explanation or an apology. That's the game. I'm sorry, we shouldn't have... You're right, Redwood strongly cut in. It is the game, and so is the game right now. Redwood dragged the needle down Ryan's neck and towards his chest, leaving a thin trace of an open wound as he went. Minutes passed with Ryan buckling in pain. I turned to Santiago. We might have been cuffed, but there was 5 people here against Redwood's 1, and we were still armed. Claudia and Haley might have been masters of torture and disguise, but they were absolute failures in checking to see if we were armed and properly detained. I scanned the room to look for objects or things that might aid an escape, a la Matlock. I saw clothes, a box of matches, bug spray, a $1 bill, an I Love Lucy DVD set, a half-eaten Danish, and a cup. There was also a television that was in shape of a square, and dusty ancient furniture that would probably weigh hundreds of pounds to pick up. So helpful. Santiago, out of nowhere, vaulted upward with a gun positioned precariously at Redwood. Redwood turned, the needle flying out of his hand. Santiago shot, but his shot missed due to his limit. The cuffs were still a problem. Redwood flew out of the way and crossed the room to grab his own gun. Go, go, go! I cried. I grabbed Ryan, who was a little shell-shocked at the torture he had been put through, and we rounded the couch. Alison and Mariah joined us behind the couch, while Santiago was now positioned behind one of the large, dusty old chairs. Redwood was behind his own couch, where he had been moments earlier. We all had our guns ready for the standoff. The Zalucky team outnumbered Redwood, but we were still handcuffed. Damn Claudia and Haley, Redwood spat. I told them to properly detain you. Yeah, I guess they need more communication on what exactly that means, I cried out from the room. But you're handcuffed. None of you are going to have excellent shots. That was assuming we had excellent shots to begin with. Alison couldn't shoot someone who was 10 feet in front of her. Mariah and I had better attributes than our shooting abilities. I'm sure Santiago could shoot better than us. But how well was anyone going to shoot with their hands cuffed? I know where you hid Larry Elroy, Redwood shouted from across the room. I've sent Claudia and Haley to confirm my idea. You have no idea, I told him. I do. He's at Alison's apartment. How the hell did you know? Santiago questioned. Mrs. Dory Ander, Redwood cackled, which caused me to gasp. When I was still a respected police officer, I asked her about you. She had plenty to say about Matty Iapen and his friends. She even told me that plenty of men find themselves at Alison's apartment quite often. It was unlisted, but a ton of men are familiar with Alison. It wasn't that hard to get the address. Leave my dating life alone, you bitch! Alison shrieked, wringing out a few bullets that were less effective than a modern-day protest against a fascist government. So, what do you plan to do? Ryan asked from across the room. Kill Elroy? Of course! Redwood sounded scorned. I'll kill him in front of you all. It'll be an appetizer before just desserts. There's dessert? Alison asked, pausing her gunfire. He's using our death as a metaphor for dessert. Did I really have to explain that one? I'll kill the rest of you. Stomp on your little machine like a light bulb. I'm looking forward to that, Mrs. Findie sarcastically stated, or what I assumed was sarcasm. It was hard to tell with a mostly monotonous voice. After all my problems are taken care of, Claudia, Haley, and I will drive to a private airport. I've paid a little bit of a shiny penny to get us a private jet to Bolivia. Why are you telling us this? Alison asked. Won't that ruin your plan? It won't, since you're going to be dead, Redwood laughed. There was a sound of a door opening and then closing. Everyone craned to see Claudia and Haley walking in from the foyer. They noticed the scene and immediately pulled out their own guns. "What's going on?" Haley asked. "You let them keep their guns," Redwood seethed. "Smart thinking." "Our job isn't usually detainment," Claudia countered, more bristled than a porcupine whose honor had been insulted. "We're torturers and murderers, not exactly security guards." "Thanks to your limited skill set, they partially escaped." Redwood looked between Claudia and Haley before ducking back down behind the couch. "Where's Elroy?" "Elroy isn't at that house." Claudia sounded ticked off, as if she was wasting precious time. "What do you mean he's not at the house?" "Just like I said, he's not there," Claudia roared. Redwood turned his head so fast that I distinctly heard the neck snap. "Where the hell is Elroy?" Redwood turned towards the living room. Everyone was cautiously looking at each other, prepared to duck down to dodge a bullet. "I guess your plan had a hole." Mariah couldn't help but bust out a giant grin. "Someone had a little mix-up." Alison looked like the cat who had gotten the cream and the bird. "Redwood thought he was 10 steps ahead, but he was only 1 step ahead." I didn't think Alison used that metaphor correctly. "And that's not all." Mariah held up her phone, the screen flashing. "We didn't have access to just our guns. I've been recording this conversation and sent it to our friends at the police station. Not only are they on their way, but they helped move Larry Elroy last night." Redwood's eyes flared open. He was not going to stop until Larry Elroy was dead. Redwood flew across the room so quickly, none of us had time to shoot. Redwood grabbed Mariah by the neck and hoisted her to the floor. I turned to aim my gun towards Elroy, but then realized I was leaving myself open to Claudia and Haley. I wasn't sure what to do in this situation. "Where did you hide Elroy?" Redwood shrieked, but Mariah remained silent. I wasn't sure if it was by choice or because she wasn't able to speak. Redwood yelled like a deranged animal before he flung Mariah to the floor. She groggily started to collect herself. Alison had moved a bit and now had her gun pointed right at Redwood's temple. "You'd kill me, Alison?" Redwood asked, as if he hadn't threatened our lives multiple times already. "Of course I would!" Alison eyed him like a garlic bread basket. "The police are on their way," I explained to Alison. "There's really no point killing him." "You're right." Redwood tossed Alison's shoulder quickly and jumped back over the couch. Redwood raised his gun, zigzagging as he fired. We all dropped down, like we were doing a line dance. "This revenge is foolish, but this isn't over." Redwood shot the last of his bullets towards Ryan and I. The bullets slammed into the couch, but thankfully, the ancient furniture absorbed them. "Fuck," Redwood complained. "That was the last of my bullets. Claudia, Haley, take care of them for me." "Excuse us?" Claudia's voice was tense with hate. "You've been bossing us a bit too much." "I'm paying you for your services." Redwood was just a pile of aggressive stress at this moment. "Really?" Haley smiled. "Services, not slavery. And the payment actually isn't complete. I need to find Larry Elroy to find the money I owe you." Redwood's voice was low and tense. "Will you dumb bitches get your shit together and lend me your—" With a single whip of her gun, Haley hit Redwood against the head. He fell to the floor like a sack of rubbish and lay there with a minor head wound. "I'm over it." Haley turned to Claudia. "Are you mad at me? I'm sorry for knocking him out." "No, babe." Claudia looked happier than a clam with a pearl. "I've been wanting to do that for days." "It won't look good to turn in our clients to the cops." "Nah, we'll just say the bounty hunters did it." Claudia turned to us. "Is that okay?" I wasn't sure what was happening. I had been ready and prepared to meet the Grim Reaper, and now it looks like Redwood was not cold and we were spared, and Claudia and Haley had no desire to torture us. "That'll be fine." Claudia looked us over. "Take the reward money for his body, but if any of you say we knocked him out, we'll kill you." Mariah, Santiago, Ryan, and I all swore to keep their secret a secret. After all, it was the easiest secret in the world. In the distance, there was the pinging sound of an emergency alarm siren. "We've got to go." Claudia turned to the door, but then had one parting sentence. "Just because we aren't killing you today doesn't mean we won't kill you eventually." With a single flourish, they vanished. The next few hours were a blur of emergency services and cops. Because we had captured Jeremiah Redwood, we were going to receive a pretty lucrative reward. But the downside, we'd probably be called to testify against Jeremiah Redwood. Larry Elroy was quickly cleared by the cops. "So what's next?" I asked Larry when we saw him downtown at the police station later that night.
"I don't know."
Larry truly looked lost.
"I haven't had time to grieve for my wife, my best friend, my in-law, and even my mother. But also, I don't know if I should stay in Cleveland. I think it might be time to grieve and change up my life, you know?
With the money I assumed Larry Elroy had, he could definitely change his life, and it might be smart to leave the city before the cops figured out he had a ton of drug money on him. Thank you for making us believe you, I continued. It could have been easy to just find you and turn you over and not solve this mystery.
It happens way too much in our justice system already,
Larry chimed before walking away. I next caught up with Ryan Smiley Mazzola. So, did the last day make you regret working with us? No, it actually worked out. Ryan's response was more positive than I had originally assumed. This whole situation was a wake-up call. Quinn died for being selfish, and dealing drugs wasn't enough. He wanted to do a shortcut around Redwood, and, well, I was a part of that. I can't easily forgive myself on the role I played in this entire situation. You didn't kill Elroy's wife. You didn't set all of this in motion. Part of it, though. Ryan seemed appreciative that I was trying to reassure him. I just hope the work that I can do at Zalewski Bonds and Investigations can make up for it. Helen Zalewski wasn't a big fan of a couple days off of work, so we decided to come back that following Thursday morning. I noticed the donut box sitting in front of Kathy on the reception desk counter. I was shocked to see 2 donuts remaining, a custard donut and a cruller.
Everyone's already had their donuts, Kathy said with a warm smile. Looks like you got your dream donut duo.
She had moved on to a new erotica to read at work, A Tight Squeeze. Helen Zalewski, perhaps hearing employees not working, walked outside of her office. So what's the plan? I asked. We have a couple new staff members. Who's working with whom? Santiago believes he's been thoroughly trained and is ready to work, Helen said in a pleasant tone. Amber and Ryan will be partnered together so she can show him the ropes. That leaves you, Mariah, Alison, and yourself to work together. But I think the whole you have to work with only so-and-so feels a bit outdated, doesn't it? I think you're saying that because Alison is jumping ship to my ship, I pointed out. I guess working more with Alison would be fine, and Helen was right. We all had our own skills that might come in handy depending on the case. Granted, the skills weren't that good. But what about Dana and Sean? Helen took a deep breath and sighed. It does appear that Dana's been kidnapped in Bolivia. Sean is still down there. But when he comes back, I fear he might be on temporary hiatus. He's quite upset. I let out my own sigh that rivaled Helen's. Is there anything we can do? Not at the moment. We don't have any information. We'll just have to wait and see if her kidnappers reach out. You said Redwood might be involved. He hinted as much. Maybe he just tipped them off, so maybe not involved, but investigated the affair? I had a feeling that something would come from this whole Bolivian debacle, and it wouldn't be pretty. The front door opened behind with a small bang. I was gutted to see Jack Doohickey walking into the office. I was expecting you to be dead. Doohickey looked upset to see me. Can they not throw you in jail or something? Actually, I think they're going to throw you in jail, I teased back. Or maybe I'm confusing jail with containment. The government mentioned you're a scourge that threatens to destroy the world, so the punishment for that has to be severe. Don't think you're all so cool, Matty, Doohickey hissed. I'll take you down so fast, they'll need to slow down the video when it happens. That's impossible. The footage wouldn't be viable because your ugly face would break the lens. Doohickey sauntered off with the intent to ruin someone else's day. Oh, and before I forget, Helen turned to Kathy's desk and grabbed some folders. Here you go. Well, I paused, eyeing the folders and still holding my donuts. Can I finish these bad boys first?